Hundreds are dead and several thousands are missing following a massive mudslide in Sierra Leone. How United Nations peacekeepers are providing clean water to violence-affected communities across South Sudan. And New York goes back in time and revives an old-school method of advertising. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Esther Gido in for Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. Red Cross officials in Sierra Leone say at least 300 people are dead and several thousand people are homeless after the nation's capital, Freetown, and surrounding area was buried under a massive mudslide and heavy flooding. After hours of heavy rains on Monday, many roads in and around Freetown are now rushing rivers of muddy water. Relatives are digging through the mud in search of their loved ones, while military personnel are being deployed to help with the rescue operation. Photos and video posted by local residents show people chest deep in mud trying to traverse the roads. Sierra Leone Red Cross spokesman Abubakar Tarawaliye told Reuters that an estimated 3,000 people are in need of shelter, medical assistance and food. Residents are worried about their homes.
Causes problem here, so now the gutter them then too tight, and we're going to come people to we dot in a gutter. We're going to flooding take place now. The gutter they block, so water all the kite away. It's how we compound, and this don't be a long time now. It don't pass how many years now. We're going to come water they flop here. This how we place the all water they go inside it, and we don't cry there. We don't cry there. We not get no solution to the problem.
Because of the Freetown area's current conditions, residents are very worried about an outbreak of diseases such as cholera and typhoid. Kenya's opposition leader Raila Odinga failed on Tuesday to make his much-anticipated announcement on a comprehensive course of action after losing the August 8th elections. A statement from Odinga's chief agent, Musalia Mudavadi, says negotiations on the announcement had taken longer than anticipated, and that his political party, NASA, will issue a comprehensive statement to Kenyans on Wednesday. On Monday, a spokesman for the United Nations Secretary General Farhan Haq declined to accept Odinga's request for a UN review of the election results. At Monday's press briefing, Haq said the UN will monitor Odinga's expected remarks. Zimbabwean First Lady Grace Mugabe is to be charged with assault in South Africa after reports that she attacked a young woman in Johannesburg. South Africa's police minister Fikile Mbalula told reporters Tuesday that 52-year-old Mugabe, a possible successor to her 93-year-old husband Robert Mugabe, had cooperated with police. South African media says Mrs. Mugabe was in the country to have an injured foot examined. Mbalula said the First Lady is not under arrest because she cooperated and handed herself over to the police. But a case has been opened, and it was not clear at which court she would appear. It is unclear whether Mrs. Mugabe was traveling on a diplomatic passport, but a Zimbabwean intelligence source says she had been traveling on a non-diplomatic passport and was on a business travel in South Africa. Now, U.S. President Donald Trump denounced neo-Nazis and the Ku Klux Klan as criminals and thugs Monday, following a two-day firestorm of criticism to his initial reaction to a rally which turned deadly in Virginia. One woman was killed Saturday in Charlottesville, Virginia, when a car sped into a crowd of counter-protesters following violent clashes between white supremacists and opponents. The tragedy is renewing debate about the boundary between free speech and hate crimes. VOA's Robert Raphael explains.
Monday at the White House, President Trump uttered words some say were 2 days too late.
Racism is evil, and those who cause violence in its name are criminals and thugs, including the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other hate groups that are repugnant to everything we hold dear as Americans.
Trump's televised comments followed bipartisan criticism of his initial remarks on Saturday, in which he condemned hatred and bigotry without specifying white supremacists and other groups who organized the rally. That protest erupted into hours of violence between organizers and opponents. 32-year-old Heather Heyer was among a group denouncing the protesters. She died when a speeding car struck the crowd. The driver, 20-year-old James Field Jr., was denied bail Monday. He faces second-degree murder and other charges. Civil rights advocates say determining when freedom of speech might incite violence is a major challenge for law enforcement and America's legal system. Laura Murphy is a free speech expert who served with the American Civil Liberties Union for nearly 20 years.
So it's very important to distinguish action from words. And the court has allowed very, very provocative, hateful words to be allowed to be said. Because, and I think that that's a good thing, because if people can't talk about it, they can't do anything about it.
Gabe Rotman is a national security and First Amendment expert.
The First Amendment means nothing if you can't speak safely. And it's incumbent on law enforcement not to shut down the speech if there's a chance for violence, but to step up the protection of both sides to make sure that there's sufficient separation so that you can't have fists flying.
Marvin Heyer of the Simon Wiesenthal Center in Los Angeles says intolerance can spread from words to actions very quickly.
When we see that in broad daylight, here they are again, using the same terminology, we've got to marshal our forces, educational forces. We have to make sure that they don't get away with it, that in schools people know what to say, people know the history of Nazism.
The U.S. Justice Department has opened a civil rights investigation into Saturday's violence. Robert Raffel, VOA News, Washington.
People in a small French town are on edge after a driver barreled into a restaurant, killing a 12-year-old girl and injuring others. Some suffered critical injuries. The driver, who police suspect was under the influence of drugs, was immediately taken into custody following Monday night's attack that prosecutors say was deliberate.
J'écarte le mobile terroriste.
I rule out a terrorist motive.
J'ai ouvert.
I've opened an investigation for voluntary homicide with a weapon.
The incident has reignited fears after multiple attacks in which a vehicle was used as a weapon of choice. We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our show live on Facebook, so check us out and share our show with your friends. Also, check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, how a UN peacekeepers water project is making a difference in conflict zones. Stay with us.
My name's Carla Babb, and I work the Pentagon Beat. That access helps me to do better stories. Every day it's my responsibility to collect all of the defense news. It keeps our VOA viewers informed. I get to travel all across the globe. Anything that's defense related and how to protect and keep people safe, that's where I'll go. So it's never a dull moment at the Pentagon. My name is Carla Babb. This is my beat.
And it's time now for our health report. And joining us now is Africa 54 health correspondent Lino Mudu. Lino, I hear that an East African nation is now polio-free.
That's right, Esther. The World Health Organization on Sunday declared Somalia free of polio for 3 consecutive years. The last polio case in Somalia was reported in the Mudug region in 2013. Somalia now joins the list of countries that have not reported a single case of polio in several years. Only 9 cases of polio have been reported worldwide thus far this year, and these were located in Nigeria, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. The announcement was made by the WHO Regional Director for the Eastern Mediterranean, Dr. Mahmoud Fikri. The polio-free declaration comes at a time when the country is facing its worst outbreak of measles. In recent years, and a major outbreak of acute watery diarrhea cholera, which surfaced last January with the onset of Somalia's drought crisis. Now, the United Nations peacekeeping mission in South Sudan is providing a supply of clean water to violence-affected communities across the country through its Quick Impact Project program. Residents of Munuke community on the outskirts of Juba relied on water drawn by hand from a well that was often contaminated. With the construction of a new water system, residents now have access to clean water on a turn of a tap. The new water system will provide water to 8,000 internally displaced people living in the area and 200 host community households, which have been strained at times by the limited access to scarce resources such as water, food, and firewood. UNMISS is working with the South Sudanese government and non-governmental organizations to provide similar solar-powered systems and other vital infrastructure across the country so that displaced people can return to their homes. As we reported last week, new research published in the journal Lancet Global Health suggests the number of blind people worldwide is set to triple within the next 4 decades. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization's Vision 2020 global initiative, launched in 1999, aims to eliminate the main causes of all preventable and treatable blindness as a public health issue by the year 2020. Joining us live via phone to discuss this issue from Haywards Heath in the United Kingdom is Dominique Haslam, Director of Policy and Program Strategy, Sight Savers, an international charity fighting preventable blindness. Mr. Haslam, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Good to speak with you.
Let me have your reaction to this report published in the Lancet that the number of blindness will really increase by 2020.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously a tragic prediction, particularly as so much of it is entirely preventable. So currently around 80% of blindness can be avoided with the right access to healthcare. And yet what this research shows us is that we're going to see an increase in cataract, which is the leading cause of blindness, an entirely preventable situation in most cases, which requires just a simple and relatively cheap procedure to reverse or prevent. We're also still dealing with trachoma, and this is a disease which belongs to the ancient world. You know, there's evidence in hieroglyphics going back to the earliest African civilizations of trachoma, and yet here we are in the 21st century, and we're still dealing with people who are going blind unnecessarily from conditions like cataract and trachoma.
Can you give us a sense of the situation in sub-Saharan Africa?
Yeah, so unfortunately we will expect the burden of blindness to grow within sub-Saharan Africa, and that's where organizations like Sight Savers are really focusing our efforts, working alongside health ministries, the World Health Organization, and also the International Agency for the Prevention of Blindness. But what we know is that 9 out of every 10 people currently who are blind are living in low and middle income countries. So it's really impacting on regions of the world like sub-Saharan Africa. And it's very much aligned to a denial of access to basic healthcare, which includes these eye health services. Really, it should be a priority. We know that the World Bank has shown that improving and preventing vision problems such as cataract and refractive error are amongst the most cost-effective health interventions that are available. So there are solutions there, but we really need to scale this work up quickly.
So we know that with Vision 2020, there is this goal to reduce preventable blindness. So what is the issue here? What are the progress that we have seen and remaining challenges?
Okay, so Vision 2020 is a partnership between the World Health Organization and the International Agency for the Prevention of Blindness. And really, over the last 10 years, it's demonstrated that investments in eye health work. More people would have been visually impaired if it wasn't for the efforts of this partnership. So in percentage terms, we're seeing a decline in prevalence. So a lower proportion of the population is going blind unnecessarily. However, that decrease is offset by an increase in the global population, and people are living longer in sub-Saharan Africa as well as other parts of the world. And that's as a result of other health and social changes. So we need to recognize that and plan for it. What we have is these highly cost-effective solutions, cataract surgery, the elimination of trachoma and river blindness, and those can bring accessible and affordable eye care to even the most disadvantaged communities, but we need to scale them up. So we need to encourage governments to increase domestic funding. We need to be investing in schemes that enable all their citizens to access eye health services. And we need to enhance health systems and make sure that even the most marginalized, so older people, children, women, and people with disabilities are able to access these services as well. Again, it's a real tragedy that around 2/3 of people who are blind from avoidable causes are women. That's because women aren't accessing these services. They aren't getting the information they need, and the services aren't accessible to them for a variety of reasons.
Okay.
So those are some of the areas we need to focus on.
All right, Mr. Haslam, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks very much.
And Dominic Haslam is Director of Policy and Program Strategy at Sightsavers. And that's our health report for today. To stay in touch, find me on Twitter at Lenore Moudou. Esther, back to you.
And thank you, Lenore, for joining us today. Be sure to watch Lenore Moudou every Tuesday and Thursday for the latest health news in Africa, right here on Africa 54. Now, many of us would like children to learn as many African languages as possible with no downtime. And new technology is perhaps all we need to make that dream a reality. And joining me in the studio is Adebayo Adebembo, a Mandela Washington Fellow, Nigerian entrepreneur and founder of Genai Games, a company focused on promoting and preserving African cultures using technology. Adebayo, a very warm welcome to you to Africa 54. Now, this is a very interesting subject, and I'm just wondering what kind of technology are we talking about here, and how does it really help the children to learn different native African languages?
So in terms of technology, we're specifically talking about mobile applications for mobile phones and tablets, and also cartoon videos that can be played on TV or even watched on the internet. So it's basically using cartoons and games to make learning interesting and fun for them. It's combining voice, it's combining pictures and games and colorful graphics and text to make language learning fun for them.
Now, we have some of your video excerpts, and I would like us to take a listen to that so you can tell us a little bit about it. Let's take a listen.
አመሰግናለሁ።
ቲያቡ
Kialeboha.
Akpe
Murakoze.
Twaseka
Mo.
Tatenda
Nagode.
Ngiyabonga
Kialeboha.
Abaraka
Imama.
Eshi
Litumezi.
Kanimambo
Danki.
Jarejengef
Ndiabulela.
Onjaram
Eshegani.
Beriwe
Thank you, Mono.
Niyabonga
Murakoze.
Shukran.
Adebayo, very, very interesting. How did you get that to happen? And are these people from different countries speaking now another language, saying thank you? Because I see a million voices in million languages.
This was made possible by the YALI program. I was in Dartmouth College with about 24 other fellows drawn from 19 different countries. So we saw that as an opportunity to not just connect, but also show our diversity. So myself and one of the fellows from Ghana who runs Leti Arts, his name is Aram Tawia, worked together along with the Cameroonian Yembe Mfor and all the other fellows to make it possible. So it was basically us, expressing gratitude to everyone in these different languages.
I'm just wondering if we will be able to see from your iPad how we get to use the app that you have.
Okay, so I'll just share it with you. This is the Yoruba 101 app. It's basically you learning from the basics. So this is the alphabet. You learn with the alphabet, you hear the sound, you see examples, and you go on like that, and you can repeat alongside. You also then play simple games to test your knowledge. So after learning, you play simple casual games to test your knowledge. You hear the sound, you try to get it right, you go on like that. And that's for one of them. And this is also a different one, which is a storytelling one, where you get to learn about different characters and what they symbolize in, the different cultures.
So how does one get access to the app and say, I want to learn Igbo, for example, one of the Nigerian languages. How easy is that going to be for me if I'm using the app?
So for you to learn Igbo, you would go to our website. We have all the links to the different apps and where you can get them on the App Store. The apps are available on Apple Store and Google Play. So you just search for Genie Games or you search for Igbo 101, IGBO 101, and you'll find the app. And you learn using a series of games and lessons, and you also get to unlock symbols that get you in depth into what Igbo culture represents.
Will I be able to have a conversation in Igbo, say in 3 months?
Yeah, basic conversations. At least you'll be able to say, greetings and introduce yourself. And the basics, really, you will be able to.
Briefly, what next for the Genie Games?
For Genie Games, it's about connecting more with Africans and taking this beyond Nigeria so that we can do things for Swahili and all of our beautiful languages and customs in Africa. And so we're looking towards working with partners to make that possible.
Adebayo, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Adebayo Adebembo is a Mandela Washington Fellow, Nigerian entrepreneur and founder of Genie Games. It's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, an old form of advertising makes a comeback in New York. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending. From high-altitude balloons to telescopes to animal monitoring, the total solar eclipse that bisects the U.S. from coast to coast next week will give citizen scientists a chance to get in on the act. They will be able to study the sun and weather, as well as observe animals during the unusual darkness. The National Solar Observatory has distributed 68 scientific telescopes to volunteers, backyard astronomers, students, and citizen scientists across the U.S. between NASA and the National Science Foundation. The U.S. government is spending over $7 million on the eclipse. And in other eclipse news, for those of you wondering what next Monday's total solar eclipse will actually look like, there's an app for that. The Eyes on the Eclipse app is available to download from NASA's website. It simulates what the sun will look like on the roughly 70-mile wide path of totality, where the moon will completely obscure the sun, turning daytime into darkness. But remember, don't look directly at the eclipse. You could end up with permanent eye damage. And finally, the age of digital billboards and giant posters, an old form of advertising, is making a comeback in New York. Painted directly on the city's walls, these ads have found a home in the birthplace of street art. Colossal Media was founded in New York in 2004 by 3 artists at around $40,000 per mural. Convincing potential clients to choose hand-painted ads was far from easy. But as more got popular, this aesthetic form of advertising also gained ground, especially in New York, the birthplace of graffiti, where painted ads are also becoming tourist attractions. Today, the company paints up to 500 murals a year in 6 big cities around the U.S., and that's what's trending today. Now, young designers brought African-inspired color and ethical fashion to the London runways, where fashionistas and industry professionals participated in this year's Africa Fashion Week. VOA's Mariama Diallo reports.
From eye-popping colors to stunning motifs and patterns, African designers showed their latest work in London.
This year we've got over 50 designers in our selection, and we've got like 7 different countries represented from all over Africa that are really bringing the colour, the brand of Africa to this year at Freemasons Hall in London's Covent Garden.
Many African designers are not shy about using their fashions to tell the stories of their tribes and cultures that influence their work, giving their clothing a unique identity. George Adesegun showed an intricate women's wear collection which draws on his Nigerian-British heritage.
My collection is actually evolution, primitivism, couture, which is more or less the aesthetics of my aesthetics and my heritage and all that. I'm trying to bring those elements within my work that says exactly who I am and all that, because I'm British born, but I was brought up in Nigeria.
The Evolution Primitivism collection print's inspiration comes from the Nsibidi African secret text featuring centuries-old symbols. Amid a rainbow of color, one designer's collection used just one color in the palette, gray, which also features clever reuse of materials.
And what I do is I salvage denim from charity shops, second-hand shops, and then I patchwork it into interesting patterns, and this collection is based on kente cloth from Ghana.
An award-winning designer says she gets inspiration from collection of creative minds at the show.
They inspire me when I see the different creative designs that they bring, because it might be something that you didn't think of. Like Palladi's brought fashion today, and he's got the man in the leggings with the skirt, which are like trousers, with the pleats, which I've never seen that before, but it's very inspiring.
This is the 7th year for the Africa Fashion Week London. The event's founder says the African fashion industry is worth $31 billion. Mariama Diallo, VOA News.
And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune into VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight, at 1800 UTC, and in the mornings to Daybreak Africa, between 0300 and 0600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks for watching, and a good night from Washington.
Welcome to English in a Minute. Today's episode won't cost you anything.
Freebie.
Let's see what this one is about.
Anna, I love my job.
Oh yeah? Why is that?
I get so many freebies from the bands I write about. CDs, t-shirts, water bottles, even tickets to see them perform.
Wow. The only freebie I ever got from